messed up sometimes, but we'll see.
Writing aliens in Welsh done before you.
Oh, Where in the world?
Alright, we can get started.
Alright.
Yeah, you can finish it. Yeah, you already just give it to me now. It's up to you. Quizzes are for your edification. They don't matter at all.
Oh, they don't?
Unless you get 105 like me.
Yeah, then
Excuse
then
me.
there are tests for you
Excuse me.
if you're fighting against pride.
Now we have to talk.
Okay, now we can begin.
We got the end of the words.
Alright, so here's the outline. This is roughly going to be the outline every week. Review basic vocabulary and then whatever we're talking about that day. So we'll get through it. No worries. Today should be pretty straightforward. Next week is the bear. Get through next week. But so we'll start with review. So this was what the quiz was. This is what your homework was. This is the alphabet. So go ahead and say it with me. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, psi, omega. Say that one again. Chi,
Like, well,
Key. I just say
Kind of guttural, isn't it?
key.
X is a key.
Yeah.
Key.
There you go. You get the alphabet, and then those are the vowels. Alpha, epsilon, beta, iota, omicron, upsilon, and omega.
yeah, these got more than half. Ha ha.
And then we'll go over the homework. So the workbook was pretty easy. There were just a couple of questions, and 3 through 5 you didn't even know the answers to yet.
But we were supposed to read through.
Yeah, if you had read the book carefully, you should have been able to answer them. But I wasn't going to hold you accountable for things we didn't go over in class. But question 2 is, when do you find the 2 different forms of sigma? Anyone?
Yeah, the word.
The end of a word is the final form, and anywhere else
Everywhere else.
is the other form, yeah. That's the mid form in any position except the last letter of a word, and that's the final form that looks like an S at the tiny bottom of the book. 3 through 5 we're going to answer today, so don't even worry about those answers. We'll circle around and get them. Alright, how do you want to schedule time? Think we're back in. Normally we'd be taking a 5-minute break right now if we need it. Doesn't even need it. We just got started. We got a lot of homework to go over today. All right, we'll soldier on. Couple of vocabulary things to know. Don't worry if you don't understand them yet. Hopefully by the end they'll make a little bit more sense. But first off, an iota subscript. It's also, you're going to get all of these printed out at the end. So
Okay.
take your own notes now, but don't worry about getting every word on the slide because you'll get every word that's on the slide at the end. Make notes as to what you remembered. I'm not giving you beforehand though, so that you still feel a little bit of pressure to write down what's being said. The iota subscript. Tiny little iota that sometimes appears underneath a vowel. I'm going to talk about those today, when they occur, what they look like. That's just a word to know. Syllabification, big fancy word. How to divide words into syllable sound groups. Syllabification. There's a lot of syllables in that word. And the process of syllabification is dividing words into syllables. Diphthong. We have diphthongs in English. Diphthongs are 2 vowels that are pronounced as one sound unit. So an example of a diphthong in English would be oil.
Okay, yeah, 2 vowels.
Vowels, though. Vowels.
Vowels, gotcha.
So yeah, oil. O-I, oil. That's two vowels, and essentially a diphthong are almost always pronounced just like those 2 vowels, and we squish them together and try and morph them into one sound. And then breathing marks. Breathing marks in Greek appear over the first letters of some words, and they tell you whether or not to add a or not to add a sound. It's the hard H sound in Greek is made by a breathing mark, and we're going to talk about those.
A rough breathing mark.
Yeah, a rough breathing mark is the hard H sound.
A rose.
Yes. Yeah. Vowels and rows. They appear. We'll get to all that. We start out with pronunciation. So now that you know the alphabet, you can sound out words roughly. We're going to talk a little bit more about just practicing sounding out words and how to sound them out a little bit better. Pages 9 and 10 in your grammars, if you follow along. It's always helpful to have those open. Letters are all pronounced like the initial sound in their name. That's why I had you learn the names of the letters. A, B, Eta, G, Emma, D, Elta. They're all, if you know the alphabet, then you know the sound of it. It's the first sound of the letter. So if you're sounding out a word, just like when you were in first grade in English, you see the word cat, k-a-t. You do the same thing in Greek. You just, obviously, we're adults, so we can speed up the process a little bit more. But that's what you're doing. Little funky thing, a gamma nasal. So sometimes in Greek you get words that have two gammas in a row, or they have a gamma kappa, gamma xi, gamma chi. When that happens, the first gamma is pronounced like an N. That's how you get the sound. So example would be angelos. G would be if you were sounding it out, but because of the gamma nasal, you go elos. And that's angel. Probably could have guessed what that word meant. You know how to pronounce it. So that happens every once in a while. It'll catch you off guard, and you'll have to remind yourself, oh yeah, gamma nasal, right? That sounds like an N there. It's one of those funky things.
I did see that they said most of the time it's the gamma gamma.
Yes, usually, most commonly it's gamma gamma. If you ever see gamma nasal, that will be what it shows up as. Or it's some funky inflection that is created with one of your compound letters, and you don't see it very often. So I was going to mention, but I don't remember what, so we'll keep going. Breathing marks. These are breathing marks. Rough and smooth. This is what they look like. A little apostrophe over a vowel or the letter rho. Rough looks like the letter C. Smooth looks like a backwards letter C. We're going to go in a little bit more in depth. So get used to, you need to take note of breathing marks when you see them occur when you're reading. Here's some things about breathing marks. They only appear at the beginning of a word. So, example would be angelos. See, it's got a breathing mark right there. Above it. That's a smooth breathing mark. So it would just be angelos. If that were a rough breathing mark, you'd say hongelos. It'd be an H sound.
Oh, like an H sound. Okay.
Yeah. So rough opens to the right, looks like a little C, and it makes the hard H sound. Smooth opens to the left, looks like a tiny backwards C, and it does not change the pronunciation at all. It's just there to let you know not to pronounce an H. It's almost you ignore it if it's a smooth breathing mark. It's not going to change the way you say the word at all. They are, however, essential to the spelling of a word. So if we're doing vocabulary and ask you to write vocabulary out or something like that, you've got to remember the breathing mark in the word. You won't, pretty much never make you memorize accents unless you want to. But breathing marks are different. Breathing marks are essential to what the word means.
Essential for translation?
Yes. Essential for translation.
So those marks, you have to really look for those marks.
Yes, breathing marks you got to take note of when you're reading. The way I remembered when I was starting out was that the C, the one that looks like an actual C, just made me think of a sound. So that's helped me. So I see a little C and I go, okay, hamartia. That's C. And if it was backwards, I just remembered, okay, if that's not a C, don't worry about it. Why that is, so I'll introduce you to the character Nico at this point. Nico is a little Greek boy who grew up in Greece, and learning Greek, and he was learning Greek, and anytime he asked a question like that, his mother would just hit him on the head and say, "That's how we do it. Make it hard for English speakers to learn Greek." That's why they do it. Greek mothers taught their Greek sons to write Greek that way, and so eventually that's what it became. And there'll be quite a few times when we get to a point where you're like, why did they do it like that? That's how the Greek mothers told their Greek sons to do it. And when they asked, they just hit them on the back of the head and said, "Don't ask stupid questions." So you'll be familiar with Nico by the end of this. You're right along with it.
So you can say, don't be a Nico.
Yeah, don't be a Nico.
And yet that's a common
Although
name.
don't be a Nico in public,
But Nico's a common name in Greece.
because
Voices
someone might
after Nico.
misunderstand it.
Pronunciation. Let's keep going. Diphthong. So, remember our definition at the beginning. A diphthong is two vowels that are next to each other that are pronounced like one. So there are 8 Greek diphthongs. All right? These are the 8 Greek diphthongs. Alpha iota, epsilon iota, omicron iota, upsilon iota. Okay? Alpha upsilon, epsilon, omicron upsilon, eta upsilon. Easy way to remember them is these 2 groups of 4. So you notice A, E, O, U, A, E, O, eta.
Ah, okay.
Okay? And then you just remember eta's on this side, upsilon on that side. The only one that's different is upsilon iota and eta upsilon. Those are the 2 ones that don't fall into the pattern. Alpha, epsilon, omicron. Here's the sounds that they make. I, as in aisle. You got these in your grammar examples of them. A, as in English 8. Like the number 8 or weight. Al, as in sauerkraut.
Sour, okay.
Al. Ew, as in feud. Feud. Easy one to remember. Oi, as in oil, foil. We, as in sweet. Like S-U-I-T-E, sweet.
Or in French,
Or the French, we. Or the English W-E, we. O or oo. I think of wound when I remember this one. Soup.
So that's going to be, so you've got the alpha upsilon is owl.
Yeah.
That's going to get confusing. The OU.
Yeah.
So that's a oo.
Oh, yeah, look at the way it's written.
Ow, oo. And then AU is very similar to epsilon, upsilon. And I think the example they give you in the book is pronounce the word hey you really fast.
Hey,
AU.
hey,
AU.
hey.
You don't see it very often. So the other side.
Actually, this makes them.
This is it, in 12, I think. That's where it says, hey, you. That's where it's footnote.
But all of these, just think of the 2 letters that they make together and scrunch them together fast. I, oi, a, ooh. You just try and smush them as one sound. That's what I put. Pronounced diphthongs like 2 separate letters smushed together. And lots of, when you're reading, you'll get to where you recognize the diphthongs more often, but at the beginning you won't really remember. Don't worry about that. Just pronounce the words, and you'll start catching yourself. You'll start going, oh yeah, i.e. that's. You'll see something like alpha, iota, alpha, and you go, that's funky to pronounce, and then it'll remind you, oh yeah, diphthong. Alpha iota is a diphthong, so it's I would be that. And it flows. It's think of learning languages phonetically at times, and that'll help you. You're just pronouncing the letters, the sounds, like I was telling you before, shape and a sound associated with it. That's what letters are. They're a shape and a sound associated with it. So just doing it over and over and over again. Wow. We get to the improper diphthongs. This is the iota subscripts. There's 2 names for the same thing: improper diphthongs or iota subscripts. So a few diphthongs, when they're formed, they have the iota at the end. So remember, there's 4 of them with an iota at the end. When they appear at the end of the word, sometimes the iota drops down, and he just hangs out underneath his vowel buddy. And that occurred over hundreds of years of. Eventually, the Greeks just kind of stopped pronouncing that last iota, and so when they were writing it, they dropped it under there. And you'll see a lot of these. They are very. We'll learn about when they're used very commonly in 2 weeks. But you're going to notice these while you're reading. This is another one that this is essential to the spelling. This changes the meaning of the word, if it has an iota subscript or if it doesn't. So when you're writing it, you got to make sure you have the iota subscript if it's supposed to be there.
Usually at the end of the word.
Yes. The thing though is when you see an iota subscript, it's no longer pronounced like a diphthong. It's just pronounced like that letter. So an alpha with an iota subscript is just pronounced like an alpha. It just sounds, when you're reading it just sounds like ah instead of I. So even though they're related to diphthongs because of where they came from and how they came about, when you're reading it, just pronounce that vowel as if it's not there. Some diphthongs formed with an iota are pronounced as if there is no diphthong. The meaning is still unique. So the meaning of the word is still needs the iota subscript under there, otherwise it changes. But the pronunciation, or as if the iota weren't there. The fog's starting to settle in today.
It's okay.
But that's all right. So yeah, you're looking back at the alphabet going, oh yeah, there's no fog there anymore, right? You just aced the quiz about it. Syllabification. So that's the pronunciation. Any last questions there? Things to clarify, go over again. Iota script, subscripts, diphthongs, rough and smooth breathing marks. We're all good. We'll circle around if we need to at the end. Syllabification, how do Greek words syllabify? How do they break down into syllables? Same way they do in English. It's very natural for English speakers to learn how to pronounce Greek words because it's got a lot of the same roots. They sound the same. They've got the same phonetics. So you're going to find syllabifying is very easy for you, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it. But essentially, just sound out the words and you'll figure it out. The clap method I learned back in 3rd grade when you're speaking. So let's say, take the word speaking. Speaking, 2 syllables. So every time your mouth closes or there's a beat in a word, essentially, that's a syllable. You guys all know what syllables are, right? If you count the words in classroom, or count the syllables in classroom. Classroom, 2 syllables.
How many times did you
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
How many times did you clap?
14.
That's why doing the finger method.
Yeah, that's good. Can't wait.
So I learned
I can't do the finger.
I'm sorry.
You got the full list of rules of how Greek words syllabify on pages 14 and 15. If you want the technical rules of how it's done and what if this situation, he explains them all in there. But essentially, 1 vowel or diphthong per syllable. That's how it's done. And just sound out the word and you'll get it. Got a few examples. So, sound out this word for me. Remember the game name? Angelos.
Angelos.
Angelos. You guys might know this word. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. That's the word amen. Truly, 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 I say unto you. When Jesus says that, he said, amen, amen.
Okay.
Let go of me. Anthropos. Remember, that's a r, and that's a n.
Yeah, you roll with the P.
Yeah, you
You roll with an or. You roll with an or. That's hard to remember. You roll with an or.
Greek puns. I like it. It's good. 3 syllables. Anthropos. And that means man. Anthropos, man. Eskatos. 3 syllables. Eskatos. So, as you're learning how to pronounce it, eskatos. So say it a couple times. Eskatos. Eskatos. And then you'll say, oh yeah, S got tossed. Okay, 3 syllables. Just work through it, sound it out, you'll get there. Just follow your heart with syllabification, and you'll be fine.
Follow your heart. That's the only time you're allowed to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you never hear me telling you to follow your
If
heart.
it
So you
feels
know
right,
it's okay.
good. Greek is
Punctuation. This is page 13 in your books. 4 punctuation marks in Greek. You know, in English, we got the exclamation point and the question mark and the comma and the colon and the semicolon and the hyphen and the em dash and all those confusing things. There's only 4 in Greek. The comma and the period, those look exactly like they do in English. They look like a comma and a period. 2 that are a little bit different. We've got something that functions like a semicolon does in English. So a semicolon, 2 complete sentences that you want to join into one sentence. You use a semicolon. In Greek, they use a period that's above that's up near the line. So, and you don't see it very often, but it'd be like up at the end of the end there if they were using it. And then the way they do a question mark in Greek looks like an English semicolon, dot and a comma.
oh,
So if you see a dot and a comma, that tells you this is a question. If you see a dot up near the top of a letter, that's a semicolon. And the commas are commas, periods are periods.
If anything, that'll be the most confusing thing.
Yeah. You'll be surprised how quickly you'll get used to that, though. Apostrophes, every once in a while in Greek, just like we do in English, we get lazy. We throw words together, we drop letters out because they're hard to pronounce. They do the same thing in Greek. So an apostrophe indicates a final vowel that's been dropped for smoother reading. So this phrase, for example, apa and mu. They got tired of going apa and mu, and didn't want to put that space in there. So they started going apa and mu. And so to communicate that on the page, they say, well, we'll get rid of that last omicron and throw an apostrophe up there to let you know essentially a contraction took place. You'll see that a lot with the word apa. You'll see that a lot with the word dia, delta, iota, alpha. They'll drop the alpha. So you'll see D, you'll see delta, iota, apostrophe, and then the next word.
So they can have an apostrophe on top of both words and in between?
Yeah, so these are smooth reading marks,
Okay, yeah.
and then this is apostrophe. They just
And
look
that's
the same
apostrophe. Okay,
because
so
of
that-
the typeface.
I got it.
So yeah, every time there's a vowel at the beginning of a word, it'll have either a smooth or a rough reading mark. Let you know how to pronounce it. And then, unfortunately, the apostrophe just looks the same because that's how the font worked. Diaresis, you're almost never going to see this. It's in there, so you got to throw it in there. Indicates when a diphthong shouldn't be pronounced like a diphthong. You need to be very clear that there's two different vowels there. And one of the only examples that I could find is usually in names. They'll be taking a Hebrew name out of the Hebrew Bible and trying to put it into Greek. And so they'll use a diaresis to clue you in there. So English example of that would be naive. Right? If this were a diphthong, we pronounce it nave or knife, but it's naive. Right? A Greek example would be Hazaios. Excuse me, I pronounced that one. Azaios. Isaiah. Azaios. So diaresis just lets you know, pronounce every single letter separately. This diphthong, alpha, iota, is the diphthong. You won't see it very often. All right, and then we get into the accents that you were asking about last week.
on the diaresis, when do we see what is the symbol? It'll be at
The symbol, oh, sorry, the symbol is like two dots, like a, what is it, in Greek, in German?
Oh, it'll be, okay.
It's, yeah, it says two dots over the second vowel.
Oops.
Like oops. I'm kind of racing through here because what I want to do is work through, get to the nouns section, then we'll come back and we'll review some diphthongs and rough reading marks on the whiteboard. 3 accents. These are the 3 accents: the acute, the grave, And you will see, so the acute is an accent that leans to the right, leans up and away from the letter. The grave leans down and towards, so it leans left. And the circumflex is either like squiggly over the top or a little hoop, half circle over the top of the letter.
And isn't that something in Spanish?
Yes, in Spanish that, I forget the name of it, but the NEA letter,
Yeah.
that's the shape that it makes. No distinction in terms of what it does to the word or why they choose one kind of circumflex or the other. It really just comes down to who taught you. Some scribes use the squiggly S, some use the little half circle. Makes no difference. So find the way you like better and use it. I'll try and switch back and forth so you see them both ways, so you get used to reading both of them.
Depends if they're.
Yeah.
So acute is acute, grave is obtuse, and circumflex is some weird thing.
Yeah. He's coming up with pneumatic devices to help him remember.
It's angles, like if you look at the top of the A, it's like 180 or 0.
Yeah. I
That's
think
an
of a line
angle.
right there, the acute makes an acute angle,
Mhm.
whereas the grave makes an obtuse angle.
Mhm.
I'll try the up that way and down and
They used to tell you a lot about how to pronounce the word when you're reading it. You used to, and scholars will argue about this, you used to go down when you saw a graph, or you used to go up when you saw an acute. You would stress it, or when you saw a circumflex. There's no real way of knowing exactly what sounds it told you to make because it's a dead language. Nobody's kept that up. So nowadays, you see an accent, no matter what kind of accent it is, just stress that syllable when you're pronouncing it. Example of that would be angelos. You would not pronounce it angelos. You would not pronounce it angelos. It's angelos. So you see right there.
It's stressed on the first letter.
Exactly. It's got a smooth reading mark and an acute accent on the first vowel. Purely for pronunciation, the accents almost never change the meaning of the word. There's a few tiny words that it does. I don't even think we'll get to that in this class in this semester. So don't even worry about that. And I'm not going to be real strict on if you're writing something out, you don't need to remember the accents. You need to remember the breathing marks and the iota subscripts, but you don't have to remember where to put the accent when you're writing a word out. I would encourage you while you're memorizing your vocabulary each week, pronounce it with the accent to help you remember. So when you learn this word, learn it angelos, don't learn it angelos.
And that's always going to be on a, well, I guess it's, never mind.
So it's going to be on a vowel, that's what.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah, accents will always appear over a vowel.
And then we'll be.
All right, that's all of your funky little things about reading Greek, pronouncing Greek, etc. Questions on that? We'll come back to it and go through the diphthongs together on the whiteboard, assuming we got time. But I want to get into the intro to nouns because next week is bare in terms of understanding how the Greek language functions. And so these concepts are going to be really important to know and have at least a little bit of a working grasp of. So if you know these this week and it can kind of review them this week, next week it'll be a lot easier. That's why I wanted to get to this today. But any last questions on pronunciation, punctuation when you're reading, diphthongs, rough reading marks?
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. Let's see. I think I got it from on page 11 in the margin. How it says, now write these English words with Greek letters.
Yeah. We're going to reverse transliterate.
Right. And so I tried that, but I couldn't figure out when do you use the diphthong IE and the iota. Because, like, for instance, when I did Skype, I did IE, But then when I did Bible, I just did iota. No, I don't know if that's right, but,
That's, yeah, either of those work. And I mean, there's no technical,
okay, there's not any particular.
no, not when you're putting English words in.
It could have, because
It's just a matter of what does it say. So when you're getting to a Greek word, there'll be a correct spelling of every Greek word, and you'll know that just by repetition and learning them. But
Okay.
yeah, if you're reverse transliterating, trying to put English words into Greek letters,
Mhm.
whatever way works.
Okay. Also, what threw me, it says, you're supposed to do, or they gave an example of monster drink. It said with gamma nasal, and I didn't know where the gamma nasal would come into play if you wrote that down.
Well, like drink would be,
Yeah,
That-
gamma
yeah.
kappa
Gamma
would be a gamma nasal. So
right,
you put
again.
delta, iota, rho, gamma kappa.
Okay, wait a minute. For which word?
Drink.
For drink.
Use the,
Delta, iota, rho, gamma kappa. Would pronounce like the word drink.
why don't you put the iota first? Would be delta rho. Iota.
Excuse me, yeah, delta, rho, iota,
iota.
thanks.
Delta rho.
I thought you were saying dirk.
Dirk. That's a dirk.
Delta, rho, iota, gamma kappa.
You go get
It's
the
a dank
dirk.
dirk.
Can I get you a dirk?
I think I had, wait, I had something else now. Oh, I had new for the,
Yeah, and
new and kappa.
that's acceptable also. He's just trying to get you used to using it and seeing the gamma kappa. The gamma nasal. All right, intro to nouns. So this is pages 22 through 26. I think it's chapter 5 in your books. It's all the, so we're going to be looking at common things to grammar in English and just a tiny little bit of how they relate in Greek. So there's this thing called inflection in lots of languages, and English is an inflected language. Greek is a highly inflected language. Inflection occurs when a word performs a different function or carries a different meaning. So example of when a word that has the same idea, the same referent, same use, changes its form. She is my wife and I love her. Okay? You're still referring to the same person, right? But at the beginning of the sentence, you would say she, because she's the subject there. And at the end of the sentence, you'd say her, because she's the object there. We're going to get into that a little bit more. That's an example of an inflection. Based on the use, the function of the word in the sentence, the form changes. She and her. But it's the same root word. Another example of inflection in English would be when we're pluralizing. When we make a plural, usually, generally, you add an S. So, one egg, two eggs. The function or the meaning changed a little bit, so the form changed a little bit too. Another example would be jump, jumped, and jumping. Okay? Same root word, but the inflection, the change that took place is you added different letters at the end to change what you're saying a little bit. Jump, just telling you that jump. Jumped, what changed? Telling you it's past tense. All right? Jumping, what changed?
Present.
Yeah, it's ongoing.
Is.
Inflection is simply a word taking on a slight change in form to give you extra information. Greek is a highly inflected language. Every word in Greek can change a little bit with additions at the end, in the middle, at the beginning, to communicate a slightly different thing. And so this is what makes Greek a hard language to learn, is how much inflection there is in Greek. Some of the things that change, that get represented by their changes, is case. So all nouns have a case determined, again, by the function of their sentence. There's three basic cases in English. There's the subject. It's the thing doing the verb in a sentence. Example, Bill threw the ball. The subject is Bill. Bill is the person, place, or thing who's doing a verb, throw. There's the possession case. the thing that possesses something else. So that is Bill's ball. So Bill's with an apostrophe S is how we show possession in English. It's his. That's another example of a possessive pronoun. His. Right? Those are two inflections that took place. Apostrophe S tells you it's a ball that belongs to Bill. He's taking possession of it. And then there's the object case, the objective case. The thing that the verb is being done to. So in our first sentence, Bill threw the ball. Bill threw the ball. The object is the noun that the verb is being done to. Okay? So Bill is the subject, threw is the verb, and ball is the object. You with me? These are the three cases in English. You can subdivide some of these a little bit, get a little bit more specific, but these are the three basic cases. In Greek, there's 5 cases. So in English we have 3, Greek there's 5. And we're going to learn about those cases next week. We're going to learn about 2 of them next week, and then we'll learn the other 2 or 2 more the following week. So look forward to that. But getting used to this kind of how we talk about nouns, subject and object, that'll help you when we get into nouns, learning inflection. Something else that all nouns have in English, they have a number. In English, they're either singular or plural. It's the how many person, place, or things are we talking about, either subject or object. Singular or plural. Bill threw the balls, that's plural. Bill threw the ball, singular. The ball is in the object case both times. So case and number are 2 things that nouns have, both in Greek and in English. Greek has the same numbers. They're either singular or plural. So that one translates easy. So case, number, and then the last thing you got to know is gender. All nouns have a gender in Greek. Some nouns have gender in English too. You can see it most easily in your pronouns, your shortened words that go in place of nouns. Right? There are 3 genders in English: masculine, feminine, and neuter. He did it, she did it, it did it. They take on some kind of a masculine or feminine or neuter quality. All Greek words have a gender. Either masculine, feminine, or excuse me, all Greek nouns. All Greek nouns have a gender. Masculine, feminine, or neuter. Little pet peeve, it's not male or female.
Yeah.
Male and female are sexes. Masculine and feminine are genders.
Okay.
It's part of my pet peeve that relates to the current social epidemic going on. But gender is a language term. It relates to grammar. Masculine, feminine, and neuter. In Spanish, has anybody here ever learned any Spanish?
Yeah.
A little bit. The Spanish has genders for all of its nouns. La,
Wow. So does German.
so does German.
But
yeah.
they don't make any sense.
Yeah, and they're randomly assigned usually. They don't have to relate to what kind of thing it is. You just this is how we say this word, and we decided that it was feminine. So why is it feminine? Don't ask stupid questions, Nico.
Or in this case.
Same in Greek. They're randomly assigned. So, case, number, and gender are 3 things that you got to know about nouns. You got to be clear on what those concepts are. So, somebody give me a quick little summary of what a case is in English or in Greek.
A word changing depending on its whether it's the subject, the object, or possession.
Pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. So,
How it changes in a sentence, how a noun changes in a sentence to fill a function.
yeah, well, and real close. The case is the function that it fills. Inflection would be how it changes, but the case is but you got the right idea. The function that it fills is the case. Is it the subject or the object, or is it showing possession? So yes, good. What are numbers when you're referring to nouns?
Singular or plural.
Singular or plural? Easy answer. And then what is gender when you're referring to nouns?
Masculine, feminine,
And
neuter.
masculine, feminine, or neuter. Those are the three genders.
There's not a transition.
No, there is no transgender.
Whoa.
And there is no confused gender. They all know what they are.
There's no gender fluid.
No gender fluidity in language. Alright, those are the three concepts I want you guys to get comfortable with nouns, because next week when we get into it, you're going to want to know those. You're going to want to understand those. We're going to be talking about two noun cases. So, last 5 minutes, we can go over some things. If you wanted to practice the diphthongs or looking at rough reading marks, reading words with rough reading marks. What do you guys want to do for the next 2 or 3 minutes? Let's go over the diphthongs. You'll see a lot of diphthongs, so get used to recognizing them. It's good.
So what's the homework for this week? That way we know what.
Oh yeah, we'll go over homework for this week first. So homework this week, the reading homework is read chapters 4 and 5, which is essentially the information we just covered. Get it clear from Mounts too. Workbook exercise number 4 and review number 1. They're pretty straightforward. The important part of the homework is reading through 1 John 1, 5 through 2:5. And that's inside your workbooks. You've got just the Greek versions of those of 1 John 1, 5 through 2:5. Just read through it. Try and read through it 5 or 6 times before next week. Just get used to seeing Greek words and pronouncing them out loud. If you can pronounce the Greek word, get used to reading the language, it will help immensely in learning the language. He's also got an online help with a QR code or a URL you can visit. It's in the workbook, and you can read along with him as he's pronouncing it. And then lastly, know all of the diphthongs and the vocab on pages 16 and 17. So a quick word on vocab. You're going to start getting vocab. Each week you'll have new vocab, and it'll be at the end of the chapter. And whatever chapter you go over that week, that's the vocab you do. There will be one exception. I think it's next week. You don't have the vocab. I'll explain why we did that, because we're having you memorize instead. But the vocab, it's just like any other language you've ever learned. You just read the words and know what the English equivalent is, know the meaning of that word. This is where your flashcards come in real handy. You put the Greek word on one side and the English word on the other. Angelos, angel, okay. Hamartia, sin, okay. Etc. And you'll get some clues here and there. What I'm going to do is next week when we review, we'll go over some of the vocab. I might give you some tips or tricks that I use for helping me remember certain words. But that'll just come up as it goes.
I have a question. I'm just looking at the vocab, and it looks like, are they including endings?
They're including articles. There's 2 extra little things after the vocab word. We'll learn about those next week.
Okay.
So don't worry about those right now.
Okay.
But yes, that's good
On page
observation.
16 and 17.
Okay. Perfect.
He's giving you those to help you remember the way that the words form and the gender that it is. But we'll learn about those next week. Right now, just learn the first part of it, the word at the beginning. Good question. All right, real quick, we'll go over the diphthongs one more time and then we'll be done. And I'll tell you the way I write them. I go alpha, epsilon, omicron, upsilon, and I do the same thing, alpha, epsilon, omicron, and the last one I do eta. And I go iota, 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 upsilon, 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 upsilon. Boom, all your diphthongs. Easy way to,
A-E-O-A, A-O-E.
yeah. So if you know all your vowels, you just remember, you do it in an upsilon or the end ones, and these 4 are the beginning ones.
So
Easy
it's,
way to remember.
it's an I, A, boy,
I really don't know what you're doing.
I, A,
Very
boy,
distracting.
we, yes.
ow,
How,
ow, you,
you,
ooh.
ooh, yeah.
That's A,
You,
you,
like feud,
So ow, you,
It's the first letter in each
and
one.
A-U.
A-U.
And then you
The last
just
one is
see the
A.
eyes and the
Yeah.
ears.
A-U?
A-U.
And some people will consider these the same.
U, A, E, O, A.
They'll consider those two essentially the same diphthong. They'll say there's only 7.
So I, A,
I do A because it's easier to
I don't
remember.
know how you
Sure.
get that.
Okay.
A, boy, we. Right, I, A, boy, we.
Well, it would be
Ow, you,
I,
Right,
E,
you, yeah, you, ooh.
I don't know.
Yep. Those are
Really?
your 8 Greek
What?
diphthongs. And when you're putting a breathing mark over a
I,
diphthong,
A.
it goes over the second letter. So it'll always go over the iota or the upsilon. So if we were to put a rough breathing mark on here, it'd go like that.
Hi.
Always the second one.
Always the second letter in a diphthong.
In a fifth.
That's,
At the beginning
so that
At the
would
word.
be, so that would
Beginning
be
of the word,
I.
yes. Somebody come up here and put a smooth breathing mark over Ahoy.
Oh,
Smooth is left.
Nice.
Rough, wait no.
Get it.
Rough is left,
Good
smooth
job,
is right.
nice.
Yay, Clint.
I think
So
Red's
that would be
like
high,
this.
so
You want to put an acute accent on A? Same thing, it's going to go over the second letter.
remember,
In a diphthong,
take
your
it up
accent
and away.
goes over the second letter.
No, it's
Up and away.
Oh,
It's acute.
what? Bookmark.
Nice.
I know.
Up and away.
Thank you.
It's acute. I'm not gonna remember it that way.
Or we put a circumflex over
It
the
just doesn't
G,
work like that in my
Circumflex.
brain.
Or
The
circumflex.
English.
Either
So
way.
there's 2 different ways to do it.
Doesn't matter, whichever one you like better.
When you flex, you want
But does the accent,
Circumflex.
I have a question.
does the accent separate the vowels?
Nope.
But
It's just where you put it.
But on the
you-
diphthong, it goes on the last vowel.
Yeah.
The only time you separate is
Yeah,
in
yeah.
pronunciation when it's got the umlaut, or whatever they call it in.
The little
Diaries.
the double dot thing.
The what, what?
The
Diaries.
diaries.
So the accents
diaries.
don't
What do you
have
call it?
formal and informal.
No, in
They're
German it's
both the
called
same,
umlaut.
either way you write it.
Well,
Correct.
Umlaut.
You're talking about these two?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both the same either way you write it. You look at ancient manuscripts, some scribes will use this one,
so
some
in
scribes will
German,
use
this
this
should
one.
not be the
In
same.
the same region, at the same
I was gonna say, was
time.
it
In
regional?
German, it means
I
separate
can't tell.
vowels.
No, it just has a different sound to it.
This guy had this teacher.
But there's two.
It's like us in Britain, how we write our English.
Yeah.
Well, so on you, it would be A-U, right? It would, in a different, 2 different syllables.
Yeah.
Right.
But, well, it's AU. It's still, the whole point of diphthongs is one syllable, it's one sound.
A-U instead of U.
Yeah.
Maybe A-U instead of U.
Where do you get the
The E, the E is A.
So
The
it's
E-
an A. It's the
E-
same
That's
thing.
epsilon is pronounced.
Father, whatever. A.
And
And
alpha is
that's.
A in the
Right.
diphthong. But
But that's
I'm looking at
A.
the second, is that second?
Wait, no,
diphthong?
that's I.
That's A.
What's an A?
No, the A is the
This
last
is
one.
U,
It's U without the diphthong, but with the diareses, it's A-U.
yes.
Ooh.
I have no idea what you're talking
No,
about.
right here, look, this is U, this is a diphthong right here.
Mhm.
EU is a diphthong, U.
Without that.
But if you put the diareses on there, it becomes A-U.
Yeah.
Because E,
It changes.
that's epsilon is A. So I was just trying to learn how to.
I thought
But isn't
that
the-
it's an E, not
U?
A.
Yeah, it's shorter, but
It's
yeah.
A-U, oh,
A.
A-U, I'm
Like
sorry.
edification.
This is A-U right here.
Ooh.
Y'all
And
are
then A-U.
How do you-
screwing me up.
My bad,
It's not a diphthong.
my
How
bad.
do you
That's all right,
pronounce
try it.
this one, the bottom one?
I'm just stupid.
AU.
You, but it doesn't change.
Yeah. You could make the same argument with all of them, that they don't change, you just,
But that
ones
was-
get faster as one unit.
But that one really doesn't change.
Yes.
It's AU.
That one more than others doesn't change.
I'm saying A and it's it's.
You're-
Somebody want to pray us out?
And
Finish us off?
That is Ada. Ada.
You two argue, we're gonna pray. Argue after.
Hey, did you make this?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Clint, why don't you pray us out?
I will press out.
Father, thank you for our time together, and just thank you for giving us opportunity to learn the language that you wrote the New Testament in, and just help us to not get overwhelmed with all the information, and just Lord, we need your Holy Spirit to help us learn it. It's a dead language, Lord, and we need your help. So please do that. Just thank you for Stephen and his commitment to teaching us, Lord, and just help us grow together in our faith, first and foremost, Lord, and just learn how to better understand your word. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.